You reached the goal, you got what you wanted, the job, the house, the respect. From the outside, your life looks like a success story, and yet, late at night, when everything finally goes quiet, something feels off. There's no crisis, no obvious failure. Nothing you can point to and say, that's what's wrong. Just a subtle, unsettling emptiness. Most people are taught to believe that emptiness means you failed, that you didn't try hard enough, that you took the wrong path. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one talks about. For millions of Americans, emptiness doesn't come before success. It comes after it. It shows up when the goals are checked off, when the struggle ends, when you're finally supposed to feel satisfied. And that's what makes this feeling so confusing. Because this isn't the crisis of someone who got lost. It's the crisis of someone who did everything right. You followed the rules, you worked hard, you delayed gratification, you became responsible, disciplined, accomplished, and now that you've arrived, there's a quiet question you can't ignore. Is this really it? This video is not here to tell you to quit your career. It's not here to shame ambition or romanticize failure. And it's definitely not here to say success is meaningless. Instead, we're going to look at something far more uncomfortable. The illusion we were taught about what success is supposed to give us. Why achievement alone can never answer the deeper hunger you're feeling. And why that emptiness you're trying to outrun may not be a problem at all, but a signal. So take a breath. You're not broken, you're not ungrateful, and you're not alone. Let's talk about the illusion no one warns you about. The emptiness didn't come when you were struggling, it came when you finally made it. When you were still climbing, the struggle made sense. Long hours, sacrifice, stress. You told yourself, this will be worth it when I get there. And for a while it is. But then something strange happens. You land the role. The income stabilizes, the pressure eases. And instead of relief, you wake up one morning with a quiet resistance you can't explain. Not panic, not sadness, just a lack of energy. This is a story many high-achieving Americans recognize but rarely say out loud. The corporate professional who used to feel driven now hits snooze 3 times. The tech worker who once loved solving problems now feels numb in meetings. The doctor who sacrificed a decade of life finally makes it and wonders why the fulfillment never arrived. The entrepreneur who beat the odds realizes the win didn't change how they feel inside. Nothing is wrong, but nothing feels alive either. There's an important distinction here. When you're struggling, emptiness sounds like I don't have enough. Money, stability, safety, options. But after success, emptiness sounds different, quieter, more unsettling. Is this all there is? And because this question doesn't fit the success narrative, most people don't ask it out loud. They suppress it, they distract themselves, or they make the most common mistake of all. They assume the solution is more success, a bigger goal, a higher title, another milestone. So they upgrade the target without ever questioning the direction. But here's the truth no one prepared you for. Achievement is designed to motivate you. It is not designed to fulfill you. The systems of reward, status, and recognition are excellent at pushing you forward. They give structure, momentum, a sense of progress, but once their job is done, they don't know how to take you any further. So when emptiness appears after success, it's easy to think something is broken inside you. It isn't. This feeling isn't a personal failure. It's a sign that one system has reached the end of its usefulness. And in the silence it leaves behind, a deeper question starts to surface. Not how do I win, but why am I playing this game in the first place? And to understand why that question feels so disorienting, we need to look at a mistake our culture quietly taught us to make. A mistake Alan Watts described with unsettling clarity. Because we didn't just misunderstand success, we mistook the scorecard for the game itself. What if success was never the game, only the scoreboard? Philosopher Alan Watts once put something deceptively simple, yet deeply unsettling. We confuse the measurement with the experience, the score with the play, the outcome with the living. In other words, we mistake the scorecard for the game. Think about how games actually work. A golfer doesn't step onto the course because they love numbers. They love the swing, The feel of the club connecting with the ball, the rhythm of walking the green, the quiet focus of being fully present. The score matters, but only because it reflects the experience. Now imagine someone who stops paying attention to the swing, the air, the movement, and only checks the scoreboard after every shot. The game would quickly lose its magic. Life works the same way. Money, titles, KPIs, likes, status. These are not life itself. They are measurements, useful, motivating, sometimes necessary, but they are not the experience of being alive. And yet, from a very young age, we're trained to treat them as if they are. We're taught to chase grades, promotions, milestones, applause, to move from one scoreboard to the next. And at first this works. The scoreboard gives direction, it creates momentum, it gives you something concrete to aim for. But somewhere along the way, something subtle happens. You stop asking, am I enjoying the game? And start asking only, am I winning? This is where success quietly turns into disconnection. Because no one plays a game just to stare at the score unless they've forgotten why they started playing in the first place. And when life becomes nothing but numbers and outcomes, a strange emptiness sets in. You're winning, but you're no longer present. You're productive, but not alive. You're successful, but oddly absent from your own experience. That's when the emptiness from part one deepens. Not because you failed, but because you've been living through symbols instead of sensations, through results instead of reality. Alan Watts warned that when we live this way, life becomes a constant postponement. Happiness is always just beyond the next milestone. Meaning is always deferred. And eventually the mind begins to ask a dangerous question. If the score is high, why does the game feel so empty? Here's the quiet truth. The emptiness shows up when you're scoring points, but you're no longer in the game itself. And once you see this, another realization follows. If your sense of self has been built on keeping score on achievement, performance, and outcomes, what happens when the scoreboard stops giving you answers? That question takes us deeper. Beyond success, beyond metrics, into the structure of identity itself. And that's where Carl Jung enters the conversation. If you are what you achieve, what happens when there's nothing left to prove? Psychologist Carl Jung had a word for the identity we present to the world. He called it the persona. The persona is the mask we wear to function in society. It's not fake, but it's not the whole truth either. For many high achievers, that mask becomes very specific. The achiever, the provider, the reliable one, the winner. This identity works, sometimes brilliantly. It earns respect, it secures love, it gives you a sense of worth in a world that rewards performance, and for years, maybe decades, it holds everything together. But here's the part no one prepares you for. When your identity is built almost entirely on achievement, it must stay tense, it must keep striving, keep proving, keep delivering results. So when you finally reach the goal, when the pressure eases, something inside loosens. And that's when the fracture appears. Not a dramatic collapse, no breakdown, just a subtle inner drop. You wake up and the role no longer fits the same way. The title still exists, the success is still real, but the inner drive that once fueled it fades. This can feel terrifying because achievement wasn't just something you did, it was something that gave you love, recognition, permission to feel valuable. And when there's nothing left to prove, the ego, the part of you built to survive through performance, doesn't know what to do next. This is where many people misunderstand what's happening. They assume the emptiness means they've lost motivation, that they've become lazy, ungrateful, burned out. But Jung saw something deeper. He noticed that when a persona finishes its job, the psyche doesn't celebrate, it destabilizes. Not because something is wrong, but because something old is ending. The ego isn't failing, it's running out of roles. And without another mask to wear, you're briefly left face to face with something unfamiliar, yourself, without achievement propping you up. This moment feels like emptiness, but it's actually a gap, a space between identities. You no longer fit the old mask, but you haven't yet discovered what comes after it. And here's the crucial insight. Emptiness is not a sign that you are hollow. It's a sign that you are outgrowing a persona that once kept you safe. The discomfort you feel isn't loss of purpose, it's the loss of a role. And that distinction changes everything. Because once you stop trying to force motivation back into an outdated identity, another question emerges. If achievement is no longer enough to hold you together, what is this emptiness actually asking you to do? That question doesn't pull you backward, it pulls you forward, into a different relationship with success itself. And that's where we need to go next. Why does every new win feel smaller than the last? At first, success feels powerful. You set a goal, you chase it, you achieve it, and your brain rewards you. A rush of dopamine, a sense of momentum, relief, pride, validation. But that reward has a hidden structure. Crash, bigger goal. This loop is incredibly effective for productivity. It's how careers are built, it's how companies grow. But meaning doesn't follow the same math. Money can scale, status can scale, attention can scale, but significance doesn't compound the same way. So when achievement becomes your primary source of motivation, each win quietly loses its impact. The first promotion feels life-changing, the next one feels expected, the one after that barely registers. And instead of questioning the system, most people double down. They assume the problem is insufficient success, so they push harder, optimize more, fill every quiet moment with effort. This is where modern American culture steps in. Hustle culture praises exhaustion as virtue, productivity becomes identity, rest feels like failure, and beneath it all sits a silent fear. If I stop, I disappear. Because when your sense of self is built on output, slowing down feels like erasure. So you keep chasing the next win, not because it excites you, but because stopping feels worse. Here's a simple comparison that makes this clear. Success is like sugar. The first taste is sweet, it gives energy, it lifts your mood, but over time, you need more to feel the same effect. And eventually, the sweetness fades, not because sugar is evil, but because it was never meant to nourish you on its own. The same is true for achievement. Success isn't wrong, it's just limited. It was designed to push you forward, not to tell you who you are. And when you ask it to answer a deeper question, it fails. Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I'm not producing? Who am I when there's nothing to prove? No title can answer that. No milestone can resolve it. And the more you rely on success to do a job it was never meant to do, the louder the emptiness becomes. Not as punishment, but as feedback. A signal that something essential is being neglected. So the solution isn't to reject success, it's to stop asking it to be your identity. Because once you do that, another possibility opens. What if the emptiness isn't here to push you harder, but to redirect you? What if it isn't a sign to climb higher, but a sign to come home to something more fundamental? That's where we go next. The emptiness isn't telling you to quit life. It's telling you to stop living someone else's definition of it. After everything we've explored, one thing becomes clear. This emptiness is not depression, it's not weakness, and it's not a lack of gratitude. It's a developmental signal, a sign that a phase of life organized around achievement is no longer sufficient. For a long time, success gave your life structure, deadlines, goals, direction. But now, something deeper is asking to take the lead. This is the shift from achievement to alignment, from proving to being. Alignment doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean abandoning responsibility or ambition. It means allowing your actions to come from resonance instead of performance, from what feels internally coherent, not just externally impressive. This is where many people panic because alignment can't be measured the same way success can. There's no clear scoreboard, no instant validation. And that's why the emptiness feels uncomfortable. It removes the familiar noise, so you can finally hear something subtler. Here's where integration becomes practical. Without becoming cliché, ask yourself slowly, without rushing to answer, what feels alive when nothing is required of me? Not useful, not impressive, not productive. Then ask another question. What would I do if success wasn't watching? If no one could judge it, applaud it, or turn it into a resume line? Pay attention to what emerges. You'll start to notice a quiet distinction. There are things you do because you love them. They energize you even when no one sees them. And there are things you do primarily to be seen, to be validated, to feel safe. This isn't about condemning either category. Both had their place. But when you confuse them, when everything you do is performed, you slowly lose contact with yourself. That's when emptiness steps in. Not to punish you, but to interrupt the performance. To ask you to stop outsourcing your sense of worth to outcomes. The core lesson is simple, but not easy. External success combined with internal emptiness is not a failure. It's an invitation to place success back where it belongs. As a tool, not an identity. As a means, not a meaning. You don't have to abandon what you've built. You only have to stop asking it to tell you who you are. When you do that, something shifts. The emptiness doesn't vanish overnight, but it softens. Because it was never asking you to escape your life, it was asking you to finally inhabit it. And from that place, the final piece becomes possible. Not a new achievement, but a new relationship with living itself. Success didn't fail you. It simply did what it was meant to do, and then stepped aside. For a long time, success gave you direction. It gave you structure when life felt uncertain. It gave you a way to move forward when you didn't yet know who you were becoming, and that mattered. But success was never designed to be a destination. It was a vehicle, a phase, a teacher. So when it stops delivering the feeling it once did, that doesn't mean you chose the wrong path. It means you've reached the edge of what achievement can offer. What comes next isn't collapse, it's transition. The emptiness you feel isn't a void, it's a doorway, a pause between who you had to be and who you're ready to become. When you stop living to prove something, something subtle shifts. Your attention moves inward. Your experience becomes richer, slower, more real. You begin to live not for outcomes, but for presence. Not to be impressive, but to be honest. And in that space, meaning doesn't have to be chased. It emerges quietly, organically. This is what so few people talk about, that fulfillment doesn't come from climbing higher forever, but from finally standing where you are, without needing to justify it. So if this video resonated with you, take a moment. Leave a comment and answer this question. What did success promise you that it couldn't give? And if you want to keep exploring meaning beyond achievement, beyond titles, metrics, and performance, subscribe. We're not here to escape life. We're here to finally live it.